But the essence of revolutionizing space travel is reusability. Because I always think of, like, who wouldn't want their own personal C-3PO R2-D2?
Oh, yeah?
Electric cars, there weren't any electric cars when we started making them, really. You couldn't buy any, to the best of my knowledge.
The way computing was done in the past was largely retrieval-based computing. Somebody typed in, software is going to be generated in real time. It's generative. Based on the context, based on the circumstance, everybody's jobs will be different. I think that's for sure. How the students learn will be different.
Two of the most powerful technology leaders on Earth just sat down together and made predictions about the future that sound absolutely insane until you hear their reasoning, and then suddenly it becomes terrifyingly logical. Elon Musk just stated on stage that within 10 to 20 years, work will become completely optional for humans, and currency will stop being relevant as AI and robotics eliminate scarcity. But that wasn't even the most shocking revelation.
He also predicted that within just 4 to 5 years, the most cost-effective way to run AI computation won't be on Earth at all. It will be on solar-powered AI satellites in deep space, because the challenges of electricity generation and cooling on our planet make scaling impossible beyond a certain point. Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, was sitting right next to him, and instead of disagreeing, he actually expanded on why these predictions make perfect sense from a computer science perspective. Once you understand what Musk revealed about Tesla's humanoid robot plans, why Huang explained that AI is fundamentally changing from retrieval-based computing to generative computing, and what both of them announced about massive new AI infrastructure projects in Saudi Arabia, you'll realize we're watching the early stages of a transformation that will make the internet revolution look minor by comparison. The setting for these extraordinary predictions was a high-profile event in Saudi Arabia celebrating what's being described as a historic alliance between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United States. The two nations have shifted their partnership from the energy-based economy that fueled the industrial age to what they're calling the intelligence age, where they'll jointly build AI infrastructure, robotics facilities, electric vehicle manufacturing, and fundamentally transform how both nations operate. On stage together were Elon Musk, founder of SpaceX and xAI, and Jensen Huang, founder and CEO of NVIDIA. These two individuals collectively represent somewhere approaching $7 to $8 trillion in market capitalization across their companies. The moderator began by asking Musk about what's called first-order thinking, which Huang sometimes refers to as first-order scaling, specifically how Musk has consistently managed to dramatically drop costs in every industry he enters. The example given was batteries, where he took costs from $1,000 per kilowatt-hour down to under $100. And now he's apparently doing the same systematic cost reduction with robotics components like actuators, servo motors, and rotors. The question was direct. How do you manage to always disrupt every single industry with that thinking? Musk's answer was revealing. He clarified that it's mostly not disruption in the traditional sense. It's creation of entirely new categories. With SpaceX and reusable rockets, there really weren't any reusable orbital rockets before they pioneered the technology. But the fundamental essence of revolutionizing space travel is achieving reusability. If you throw the rocket away after every single flight, the cost of access to space remains prohibitively high forever. With respect to electric cars, there genuinely weren't any compelling electric vehicles when Tesla started manufacturing them. You couldn't actually buy one anywhere. So with Tesla, the goal was making electric cars that were genuinely compelling and affordable, not just acceptable compromises. But then Musk shifted to what he clearly considers the next revolutionary product category, humanoid robotics. He stated directly that there are currently no useful humanoid robots in existence today. There are what he characterized as gimmicks for demonstrations, but there are no actually useful humanoid robots performing meaningful work. And Musk believes Tesla is going to manufacture the first genuinely useful humanoid robots, and this will represent quite a revolution in how society functions. His reasoning for why this matters is fascinating. He framed it as a simple question. Who wouldn't want their own personal C-3PO or R2-D2 from Star Wars? Obviously, everyone would want one if they actually worked. And then beyond personal use, there would be countless applications in industry providing products and services. This is precisely why Musk states that humanoid robots will become the biggest industry and the biggest product category ever created in human history. bigger than cell phones, bigger than any other consumer product category, because everyone will want at least one, and many people will want more than one, and there will be enormous numbers deployed in industrial applications. The moderator then pivoted to discussing something both leaders are deeply involved with: AI factories. The previous day had been described as historic for both nations, with the announcement of an AI strategic partnership between the United States and Saudi Arabia, officially signed and witnessed by the President and the Crown Prince. The partnership commits Saudi Arabia's capital, energy resources, and land to energize the AI ecosystem in the United States, building inference nodes for running AI models and training nodes for developing new models, with the stated goal of becoming the most AI-enabled nation through this collaboration. Jensen Huang was asked to explain what comes next in the evolution of AI factories. He began with what he called a beautiful conceptual story about how Saudi Arabia is transitioning from building oil refineries to building AI factories, which he clearly found poetic. Huang explained that AI should properly be understood as infrastructure, which is a critical framing that most people miss. We typically understand AI from the perspective of the technology itself and how it's revolutionizing specific industries. Digital intelligence obviously has applications in every conceivable field, so it will be deployed by every company, every industry, and every country. In that sense, it's genuinely foundational to modern civilization, and therefore it must be considered part of critical infrastructure. But Huang then explained what's genuinely new about AI from a computer science perspective, which most people don't fully appreciate. The way computing was historically done was largely retrieval-based. Someone typed in a story, someone created a piece of art, someone designed 4 versions of a digital advertisement, and all of that content was pre-built by humans and then stored in systems designed to retrieve the appropriate version for whoever requested it. It was fundamentally a retrieval-based computing model. Systems like Hadoop and many of the frameworks and operating systems of the past were all architecturally designed to retrieve appropriate information for users from vast databases. But today, Huang emphasized, software is going to be generated in real time. It's generative based on context, based on circumstances, based on who you are as an individual, based on the specific problem you're asking about, based on your unique prompt. The system will generate completely unique content for you every single time, and it will be different for every person. When you use an AI system like Grok, every single interaction is different based entirely on the prompt you provide and the circumstances surrounding that query. So computing has fundamentally shifted from retrieval-based to generative. And if it's genuinely generative, where every interaction is contextually unique, then you need AI factories distributed all over the world to generate that content in real time for billions of users. The conversation then turned to a topic that genuinely scares many people: the future of jobs in an age of AI and robotics. The moderator noted that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince had articulated a vision of augmenting the nation's workforce with tens of millions of robots to drive the next wave of productivity and progress. But this vision terrifies people who worry about massive unemployment. Musk was asked for his thoughts on this fundamental question. Musk's answer was remarkably direct and unequivocal. He started by asking what time frame we're even discussing. He clarified that he doesn't really know what long-term means precisely, but for him, long-term might be 10 to 20 years, something in that range. And his prediction for that time frame is genuinely radical. Work will become completely optional for humans. Optional, not reduced or changed, but optional. It will be similar to playing sports or video games or any other hobby activity. If you want to work, you absolutely can. Similar to how you can go to a store and simply buy vegetables, or you could choose to grow vegetables in your backyard. It's much harder to grow vegetables yourself, but some people still do it specifically because they enjoy the process of growing vegetables. That will be what work becomes like for humans, a completely optional activity you engage in only if you personally find it fulfilling. But Musk was careful to emphasize that between now and that future state, there's actually an enormous amount of work required to get to that point. And he always recommends people read science fiction author Iain Banks' Culture series of novels to get a realistic sense of what a probable positive AI future might actually look like. Interestingly, in those fictional works, money as a concept no longer exists. And Musk stated his genuine guess is that if you project far enough into the future, assuming continued improvement in AI and robotics capabilities, which seems extremely likely, money will eventually stop being relevant as a concept. There will still be constraints on fundamental resources like electrical power and raw mass. The underlying physics elements will still impose limits. But currency, as we understand it, becomes irrelevant at some point in the future. Jensen Huang was then given an opportunity to respond to this genuinely radical prediction about the obsolescence of work and money. He started by noting there are different time horizons worth examining. He stated with certainty that everybody's jobs will be different. That seems absolutely guaranteed. How students learn will be fundamentally different. How people perform their work will obviously be different, because many things we currently do mundanely or with great difficulty will be accomplished very simply through AI assistance. We're all going to become more productive from that fundamental sense. But Huang made a fascinating observation about what increased productivity actually means for highly ambitious people. For most individuals, if some aspect of your life becomes more productive and things you're currently doing with great difficulty become much simpler, it's very likely that because you have so many ideas and ambitions, you'll actually have more time to pursue additional things you care about. Huang stated his genuine belief that Elon Musk will actually be busier as a result of AI capabilities. Huang himself will be busier as a result of AI. The reason is that both of them have so many ideas they want to pursue, so many things still sitting in their mental backlog that they want to accomplish. If they become more productive through AI assistance, they can get to those ambitious goals faster. So in the near term, all evidence suggests we will become more productive yet simultaneously busier because we have so many unrealized ideas. Huang then provided concrete evidence from the medical field. Radiology has largely been converted to AI-driven analysis, and there were widespread predictions that radiologists would be among the first professions to be completely automated away. But the actual trend shows exactly the opposite. There are more radiologists being hired now as a direct result of AI than there were before. The reason, if you step back and think about it, is that the goal of a radiologist isn't simply to study medical images. The actual goal is to diagnose disease accurately. The studying of images became so dramatically more productive through AI assistance that radiologists could study vastly more images, examine more types of imaging modalities, and spend more quality time with actual patients. As a result, healthcare systems are accepting more patients, performing more radiology worldwide, and doing a substantially better job at diagnosing diseases. That's the kind of near-term outcome we can expect from AI and productivity gains. The moderator then shared two remarkable stories about Saudi Arabian innovators collaborating with both NVIDIA and XAI technologies. The first involved Professor Omar Yaghi, who became the first American Saudi to win a Nobel Prize for creating new chemistry. He leveraged NVIDIA's AI accelerators and models like Grok to create breakthrough chemistry involving metal organic frameworks. These are positively charged metal ions, combined with organic linkers, that effectively create molecular sponges with extremely tiny pores, measuring just 33 nanometers. These structures can capture water directly from air, and can also capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The second story involved nanotechnology research, creating nanorobots measuring just 500 nanometers by 1,000 nanometers, capable of performing gene editing using CRISPR technology to remove sickle cell disease at the genetic level. In both instances, the research originated 20 years ago in basic science, but AI was able to dramatically accelerate the outcomes and outputs, allowing researchers to move into completely new value pools of discovery. Then came the major announcements everyone had been waiting for. Elon Musk revealed that XAI and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are jointly developing a major AI infrastructure project. Initially, Musk started to say 500 gigawatts before catching himself and clarifying 500 megawatts, joking that 500 gigawatts would have to wait for the future. The project will start with a 50 megawatt first phase and is being built in partnership with NVIDIA. Congratulations were extended to a company called Humane, which appears to be handling implementation. Jensen Huang then revealed that NVIDIA's partnership with Humane is proceeding incredibly well. They work together to help this startup company get established and operational. And now that startup, which has approximately zero history, is building a data center for Elon Musk. 500 megawatts represents a genuinely gigantic data center facility. Additionally, Amazon Web Services, commonly known as AWS, is also building infrastructure in partnership with Humane, starting with 100 megawatts with ambitious plans to scale to a full gigawatt. NVIDIA is also working with Humane on Omniverse digital twins, which are virtual environments where AI and robotics can be developed. Huang explained that AI isn't just agentic conversational AI and chatbots. Cognitive AI is critically important, but AI applies to everything. chemicals, proteins, genes, physics, fluid dynamics, particles, and of course, robotics and actuation systems. NVIDIA created a platform called Omniverse, where robots can learn how to be effective robots in physically accurate virtual environments that obey the actual laws of physics. Robots can be trained in these simulated environments before deployment. They're working with Humane to apply Omniverse to digital factory simulations, robotics facilities, warehouse operations, and similar applications. They're also collaborating in Saudi Arabia to build supercomputers specifically designed to simulate quantum computers, using NVIDIA's hardware as controllers for quantum error correction, which requires enormous computational power. The moderator then noted they had time for just 2 final questions. The first was directed at Musk. Is AI in space genuinely possible? Musk's answer was unequivocal. If civilization continues, which he believes it probably will, then AI in space is absolutely inevitable. He always has to preface such statements with the caveat that we shouldn't take civilization's continuation for granted. We need to actively work to ensure civilization maintains an upward trajectory. Any student of history understands that civilization doesn't always progress upward. Civilizations have life cycles, and many have collapsed. But assuming we maintain a strong upward arc, which he believes we currently are, then AI in space becomes inevitable. The way to properly think about AI in space, according to Musk, is understanding what's required to achieve any meaningful percentage of a Kardashev Type 2 civilization, which is defined by what percentage of a star's energy you're converting into useful work. Currently, Earth receives only roughly 1/2 billionth of the sun's total energy output. If you want to have something that provides even 1,000,000 times more energy than Earth could possibly produce through terrestrial means, you absolutely must go into space. And this is where having a space company becomes rather handy, Musk noted with characteristic understatement. Huang interjected that it's also substantially easier to cool computer chips in space, which Musk agreed with. In space, you don't have atmospheric interference, and cooling becomes purely radiative. There's definitely no water in space, so you can't use traditional water cooling methods, but radiative cooling is actually more efficient for space-based systems. Musk then made a prediction that shocked even people familiar with his ambitious timelines. His estimate is that the cost-effectiveness of AI computation in space will become overwhelmingly better than AI on the ground far sooner than people expect. He doesn't think we'll need to exhaust potential energy sources on Earth before space becomes more economically attractive. He believes that perhaps in just a 4 or 5 year time frame, the lowest cost method to perform AI computation will be through solar-powered AI satellites, not more than 5 years from now. Huang provided context for why this makes sense. When looking at the supercomputers they're building together, each server rack weighs approximately 2 tons. Of that 2-ton weight, about 1.95 tons is dedicated solely to cooling infrastructure. The actual computational hardware is a tiny fraction of the total weight. Now imagine those same racks in space where they don't need that cooling infrastructure. Each rack becomes a tiny fraction of its terrestrial weight. Musk continued the analysis. Electricity generation is already becoming a genuine challenge for AI scaling. If you start seriously thinking about scaling requirements for both electricity generation and cooling infrastructure, space becomes incredibly compelling very quickly. As an example, if you wanted to deploy 200 to 300 gigawatts per year of AI computation capacity, that becomes extremely difficult on Earth. The United States' average electricity usage, last time Musk checked, was around 460 gigawatts per year total consumption, so 300 gigawatts for AI alone would represent roughly 2/3 of total US electricity production annually. There's simply no realistic way to build power plants at that scale and speed. And if you scale up to a terawatt per year, it becomes completely impossible on Earth. You have to do it in space. In space, you have continuous solar energy with no day-night cycles. You don't need batteries because it's always sunny. Solar panels become cheaper because you don't need protective glass or structural framing. Cooling is purely radiative. These factors combine to make space dramatically more economical at sufficient scale. The final question was one the moderator noted everyone had been asking. Are we currently in an AI bubble? Huang responded by going back to first principles of what's actually happening in computer science and computing. There are 3 fundamental things occurring simultaneously. First, everyone acknowledges that Moore's law has run its course. The amount of demand for computing versus the amount we can extract from general-purpose computing creates a massive gap. The world has been transitioning to accelerated computing for over 20 years now. Huang provided a striking statistic. 6 years ago at the supercomputing conference, CPUs powered 90% of the world's top 500 supercomputers. This year, that number has collapsed to less than 15%. Meanwhile, accelerated computing went from 10% to 90%. That represents a complete inflection point in high-performance computing. Second, one of the most data-intensive computations in cloud computing is raw data processing. Several $100 billion of computational work is spent just on SQL processing and data frames. All the databases tracking names, addresses, demographic information, financial data. That entire infrastructure is transitioning from CPUs to GPUs, from general computing to accelerated computing. Third, the most important application of the past 15 years has been recommender systems, the algorithms that determine what information to show you in social feeds, what ads to display, what books or movies to recommend. The internet is so vast that without recommender systems, individuals would have no chance of finding relevant information. Those recommender systems are now transitioning to generative AI, shifting from CPU-based to GPU-based infrastructure. Huang argued that if you consider just those two fundamental transitions in computing infrastructure, many internet companies can justify building enormous GPU supercomputer facilities just for those applications alone. Then, on top of that foundation comes the third opportunity, agentic AI, like Grok, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Gemini. But people need to remember that underneath the visible AI applications everyone sees, there's a massive foundational movement from general-purpose computing to accelerated computing. If you factor that into your analysis, you'll conclude that what remains to fuel the revolutionary agentic AI applications is substantially less than initial appearances suggest, and essentially all of it is economically justified.
The moderator wrapped up by noting they had run out of time because the president and crown prince were about to speak next. But in essence, what was being celebrated was a 1945-style alliance that has now shifted from energy-based economy to the digital intelligence age, powered by pioneers like Elon Musk and Jensen Huang, with the stated goal of serving humanity and creating new economies and new jobs on a net positive basis for the future. Powered by the strategic partnership between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United States. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.